Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Um, Before we start our Q&A with our officials, would Dr. Steiner come and lead us in prayer, please?
Let's pray. Our good and gracious God, whose love surrounds us and whose spirit guides us, help us to be sensitive to your presence this afternoon, grateful for the work of the leaders of the community, and grateful too for those who seek ways to make us a better place to be for all people. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending this evening, especially our officials. We know that you all worked a hard day, but then I think that this is very important that we address some of the concerns that is going on in the inner city as well as the community as a whole. We've compiled together some questions that's concerning to the citizens of Hopkinsville. And some of the things that I'm going to address, we've already really spoken about. There may be a few things that you all are not familiar with, but if you do not know the answer, please, by all means, get back to us. So our secretary, Tracy Brumfield, will be able to document your reply and then send it out to the members. To start off, if you don't mind introducing yourself and kind of tell what your position is and what you do, if you don't mind, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm County Judge Executive. Took that office in January of this year. Before that, I was a magistrate. I've born and raised in Hopkinsville, with Murder State. Graduated, went to work for the community college. Might not that better. Went to work for community college in Hopkinsville, and then got into of course, agriculture has always been my passion, and ended up getting into agricultural lending. And before I ran for office, so I served a term as a magistrate, and now I'm serving my first term as county judge. Hello, I'm Mayor James Knight Jr. Lived in Hopkinsville all my life. I graduated Hopkinsville High School, went to community college, run a James Knight appliance for right at 30 years. Me and my dad started in 75, so about 48 years now. On that, my family still runs it. The city of Hopkinsville has always been good to our family, and me and my wife thought it was time we throw our hat in and try to give something back to our community, which has been good to us. Mm-hmm. And we appreciate everything the citizens have done for us, and we feel like we can give something back and move the city forward.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Newby. I'm the chief of police here in Hopkinsville. I've been here ever since I was 6 years old. Other than the time I served in the military, United States Marine Corps. Got out in 98. I've been serving in law enforcement ever since. After the 9/11 attacks, I re-enlisted back in the military and served an additional 3 years. And I've been my role as chief of police since April of this year.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. So at this time, probably about 3 weeks ago, we inquired with our members of the NAACP, because everyone that's in attendance here is a member. We had them to submit questions that they felt that was concerning the community. I have some of them. As I go through the questions, I will say all of you gentlemen, or either I'll address just the mayor. In this case, this will be for all you gentlemen. Since January taking in office, what is the ratio of minority employment? How do you plan on diversifying your team or staff? Now, I know in your case, in most of y'all's cases, some of the positions have already been filled, but then again, too, just like when we vote in president, they bring in their own people. So we're interested in knowing the diversity in.
That's fair. As far as the county government's made up of the road department, the animal shelter, and then the treasurer's office, and my office. And that's the purview as far as my constitutional office is for the people that support or fall up under my structure. As far as the clerk's office and the sheriff's office, those are constitutional elected officers, so they make the hiring and decisions there. I'm not certain as far as the percent. I can certainly get back. First one, I can get back with you on that. We've only had as far as under my control, one hire, and that was my administrative assistant.
Okay.
We're looking for a treasurer now. We hope to get that wrapped up here pretty soon and go. But very aware of making sure that our departments are near our community. And so that is a area I want to look at.
Now, have you already taken the applications for that position, or how would a person that is interested in that position apply?
They can contact my office. That we're looking for an animal shelter director now, and that job is actually posted on our website.
Okay, what about the treasurer?
The treasurer requires a CPA. We've reached out to about every CPA in Hopkinsville.
Okay.
So we've made contact in that way.
Okay.
City of Hawkinsville is going through a lot of hiring processes right now, which we had a lot through the police department. We have new hirees on the fire department fixing to happen. We have new captains coming up in the fire department and lieutenants that is going to be brought up. It's all lieutenants and captains are hired on them by a scoring system. On their test, they score and so on. But we do have diversity in that and in the lieutenants both. Street department, that's all done through the HR department, and they'll be taking online applications. And just like on the Public Works Assistant Director, that's online. Anyone can apply for that. It's wide open. As far as I know, they moved Dave Herndon up to Mike's assistant, and his is being outsourced. So whoever would like to apply for that job, anybody could apply from internal or external on that position. And we have a list of jobs all the time on the city webpage looking for new employees, because I hate to say it, we do have turnover, and I sure don't like it, but it's something we have. You know, the days of the 20-year employees are just about gone, because every factory or other place is always offering more benefits, more money, but we try to make it very competitive and diverse as possible.
Okay, thank you.
So at the police department, we don't base our decision of employment based on race or gender. Anybody and everybody can apply for the position of police officer, and we select the best applicants that we get to serve the citizens of Hopkinsville.
As far as like with a background check, say for instance, if we have a gentleman I know you all are capable of getting information that should have been expunged, but is the possibility that you all, when you do get applications, do you take everything like that into consideration? Because everybody makes a mistake. We know that right now.
Yes, ma'am, we do. Of course, if something gets expunged, it's just off the record, and that can't be a considering factor. That's part of, the luxury of having something expunged. But we do understand that people do make mistakes, and people deserve second chances. Some even deserve third chances. But we do consider that. We know that not everybody's perfect, and if all we tried to recruit was perfect people, there'd be nobody working at the police department.
Thank you. Please list the jobs and salaries of the new administration. I know you'll probably have to get back with me versus the prior administration. Transparency is the plus. There is going around that some people are getting $20,000 raise. They got one when the last mayor was in, and turn around and got another one since you all have taken office. So transparency, like I said, is a must. Where is the list of employees located along with their salaries? And just let us know if you can't give us the information today, to make sure that we can get the information.
Right. Well, I do not have that information in front of us. I did give every employee a 6.5 COLA. The city council voted that in. That's what I asked for, because our employees are underpaid. They are understaffed, they are underpaid and overworked. Most of our employees, if most of them's got one job, they got 5 or 6 jobs, in which we do not like that. That's the reason I'm working harder every day to figure out how we can start new positions and where we can get more employees in here, so they're not Mike, you're not looking, well, I didn't get there today for this part of the job because I had to work on this other part, you know? So we're trying to solve some of that problems, so they're not having so much on their plate and going for that. We can get with Kenny of HR and we can get you that information
Okay.
on that, man.
And is that on a website or you all just have that internally?
That'll be on that, and I'll have to find out if they can put out what they're paid
Okay,
on that. I'll talk to the attorney on that.
Chief?
We have no, even as chief, I have no control over what our employees are paid. That's strictly controlled by the city management. HR director has a list of job positions. And a lot of times, so even as a police officer, it's set as a certain pay. And then whether they have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience, they're paid accordingly. But that's controlled by the city. I have no control over any of my employees' salaries.
Mr. Gilliam?
Well, we pass a salary schedule every June for all of our employees, so it's in the fiscal court packet. Fiscal court approved it. As far as salaries are concerned, constitutional officers are dictated by the state through the Department of Local Government. There's a matrix for that. And as far as our other employees, we went with a 5% raise across the board.
Okay.
And of course, as far as giving big raises, it's really limited with the state of Kentucky because of the retirement system. It's called spiking, meaning if you get over 10%. So therefore, you know, that kind of holds people back if someone's doing a really good job. I mean, everything that we've done to this point has been based on across the board raises. So,
Mayor Knight,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the purpose of the Small Business Board and how diverse is it? What is its goal and expectation of this board?
The Small Business Commission was set up so small business could have a voice in Hopkinsville. We can give to these $1 million factories every day of the week. They can walk in, call a closed session with Carter and them over at the EDC and say, we've got to have this for this factory or this for that factory. I want the small business to have a voice in Hopkinsville. They need to have someone to stand up and say, okay, here it is. You need this. Let's say you need an incentive to help you get your business open. What do you need? Do we need help on taxes? Do we need help on payroll taxes? Do we need help on the building purchase? You know, it's not unusual for the city to go out and help buy that property out in Commerce too. So why should we not also help the small business owner? You know, and they have a lot, small business owners got a lot on the line. They don't get to go and see the folks at the state or at the federal government say, I need this or I need that. So it is our job as a city to help make our small businesses thrive and be more. I'd like to see them be here instead of just 2 or 3 years and it didn't work. I want to see a 20-year or 30-year business owner in a small business. In small business, I'm talking anywhere from 2 people to 150, 200 people. You know, we're not talking what they're calling these factories. I'm talking about someone that's doing, mom and dad is working every day. They need help too. And that's what this is for. You know, the diversity of that, it's diversity in it. It's not as well as I wanted, but we got what we got. That's who signed up. And then their terms come off. They're all on by a certain number of years on that. Far as that goes, my good friend Richie up here at hip hop music up here, he's already wanting to do. He's bringing me plans every day for something and what we ought to do incentive wise. And so, Ms. Whitaker, so is a lot of the other people on the board. They've come up with a lot of plans. They want to know exactly what they can do. We're trying to get with them, decide. They're looking at what other communities are doing for small business. The problem is no one's doing for small business. We asked the state of Kentucky. We've asked the federal government. You're the first. So we have to work our way through this to move forward on that.
Okay, so who decided who was on the board? Because I'm sure a lot of people in the community have not heard a request.
It was put out on the city webpage to be put
Okay,
out.
so everything that's always done, you need to check.
I put everything out just on like every board that I ask people to be on is put out on the city webpage. please sign up for this board and put your name in.
Okay.
That's how I do it. I'm not going, hey, Jerry, I need you to sit on this board day. You send your names in. If your name wasn't sent in with your resume, then you don't get selected
Okay.
on that.
Mayor, whose idea was it for a portion of the code enforcement to move to the fire department? And will the council have enough votes to carry out the decision?
I hope the council has enough votes for that, and you're looking at it.
Okay.
We decided to do different. You know, CDS come up and said we need to think about code enforcement. They didn't want to do the nuisance codes anymore, and they wanted to look at other things and what they were doing and what they weren't doing. So I said, okay. And then I went to Paducah. I've been to Bowling Green, been to Henderson. We've been looking all around, looking at the other code enforcement boards, and we're going to bring it back under the city. We hope to have it all ready to go by January 1. The reason we're doing that is I feel like we can do it in a different way. And right now it's underneath the fire department, and that's where it's under that way in Paducah and in other cities. We really looked at Paducah's really close, and they're helping. Paducah's helping us with the code part of it, but we also have Jim Arndt. He come in and done a study. He talked to the people in CDS. He done a study for us. We do have that on file. If somebody wants to see it, just give me a shout. I'll give you a copy of it.
Okay.
We're going to try to follow his guidelines, what he's saying we ought to do pretty close. You know, I'm not going to come up with all the employees he wants, because I got to figure out how to come up and pay for all these employees that he says we need. But there again, CDS, they do a great job of what they're doing, but they said we ought to be thinking about taking back the nuisance codes. So we're going to take back the code enforcement side of it and move forward from there.
So what you said was that there won't be any jobs lost, that there
No,
will be
ma'am.
new jobs.
No, ma'am, there'll be more jobs.
Okay.
No, ma'am, we will not, no one is going to be out of a job.
Okay. Judge Executive, please elaborate on the tax cut for the library and explain their reserve account usage.
You mean funding cut, not tax cut?
Yes.
Funding cut, we took a very analytical approach to this budget cycle and really looked at it. The budget committee and I started meeting about February, and we probably met over 40 hours collectively as a group, especially as it comes to the budget and prior to presenting the budget to the overall fiscal court. I served on the library. I was library chair. We went through a strategic planning process about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it was successful. They met their goals. And as a result, they ended up with a $1.5 million surplus. So when we look at it, we look at a library board as unelected people serving on a board that's in charge of basically taxpayer dollars. The only thing that we did was we reduced their budget this year in hopes that they would use some of the reserves. We conferred with the city, understood what their funding level was going to be. We looked at how much they needed in reserve, how much carry forward they're going to have, and their operational cost over the last 5 or 6 years. And that's how we calculated the reduction for this year, with the very, very clear understanding that come back next year and we'll restore part of that funding. Our whole funding model is based on, we're being very frugal with taxpayer dollars. They're y'all's dollars. And I think you all elected us to be responsible for you all's dollars. So therefore, we're making sure that we use those dollars in the best efforts of those taxpayers. I think the library does a great job, and by our calculations and sitting down with their board, showing them that we would see no operational change this next fiscal year to their budget.
Okay. So,
or to their operational cost.
So what you're saying is in your next budget, you plan on either putting a portion or all of the money that you took away from the budget this past time, or are you just going to wait and see what happens?
I think what we're going to do, I'm not going to promise anything, but I do know that there is a movement to try to restore it back and what we get restored back to 100%. One thing we're asking people to do during this budget cycle is sit down and explain yourself, explain what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're being effective, how effective you're being with the monies that we gave you. And quite honestly, the library is doing a great job. They really, really are. The impact that they play on this community is vital. So yeah, we're not looking to shut the library down by no means. We encourage them to keep pursuing the way they're going, to keep that strategic plan they've got active, rolling, and we'll move forward and we'll work with them.
Okay,
Yes,
how
next
far
year.
in advance did they know about this cut? I mean, was this, because I think when I spoke to you about it, I think you said that it appeared that they found out about it at the city council meeting, but didn't they find out about it or?
We called, the budget committee called everybody, every agency and informed them of what their funding level is going to be, probably 2 weeks before first reading of the budget.
So everyone was aware. Okay, now let's slide over to also explain the cut for HRC and the usage of the state funding. I know when I spoke with you, you just went over the cut, why you cut, and then you mentioned the state. So can you discuss that with them?
We sat down and we determined that the HRC was a city ordinance and a city organization. And when we sat down and talked during the budget, we didn't really have a clear understanding of how effective it was for the county as a whole. There was push that they go to other counties and provide a service to them with no recourse to those other counties. Again, it's probably the same situation. Come back next year with a plan and show us how you're going to use the dollars.
And when were they told about the cut? Again, 2
The
weeks
same
prior?
time, yeah.
Okay. Now, the next question is, why do you think the community is questioning your judgment about those cuts? Because you said that you do plan on funding the entities again, probably in your next budget. But why do you think that there's so much, why the people in the inner city and more so the inner city than the county that's upset about it? Because now that, if I understood it right at the meeting, that now that the county is not supplying money for the budget, then anyone that lives in the county cannot use HRC. Is that correct?
Well, according to HRC, they'll help anybody. But we did the math. I think it was like $2,000 per person that they helped. If we did the math of what we spent in years past and the number of county residents outside of the city, was about $2,000 per incident or per case or claim. We just took a look at that. Is that really the best use of taxpayer dollars? When we look at, I think there was a very clear, again, we went through a very methodical method and budget allocation. And we looked at our constitutional requirements. We're supposed to provide safety to the residents of Christian County. We're supposed to provide county roads, and we're supposed to maintain a jail with 700 residents over there. Those are the three big priorities that we're constitutionally required to provide to the citizens of the county. We don't have unlimited resources. We don't have an occupational tax. We don't have an insurance premium tax. We have an ad valorem property tax, and that's pretty much it. So when you look at our overall budget and the income that we receive and you start dividing them out and looking at public safety, we're going to make sure that this community is protected. And so therefore, we're going to make sure that our sheriff's department has what they need to be able to keep this public safe and this county safe. And same way with the jail. We don't have a choice. And I've explained this several times. If you have $5 left and you got to incarcerate an inmate or fill a pothole, what are you going to do? We're going to have to incarcerate the inmate. So, that's truly how we took an analytical approach to the budget this year.
Thank you. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the proposal for the homelessness here in Hopkinsville?
That's a great question.
And has a board and a director been appointed or hired?
No, ma'am. No board of directors been appointed, no director's been hired. We have meetings again this week with the jail, payroll center, police chief, sheriff, another young lady from the state. Forget her name right off. She'll be here. We're going to sit down and have some more conversations. We're trying to figure out how we can handle our issues with the homeless. You know, do we get out and do we go one-on-one and walk up here and get their name, social security number, so we can say, hey, is anybody looking for you? What kind of medication you on? What do you need? What kind of services can we help you with? You know, do we need to provide mental health services? Do we need to try to find you a place to sleep? Medication? What can we do to help these people? You know, as I tell everyone, homeless is a really hard answer to answer right now because it's everywhere. I seen it this morning up when I was out of town. I've seen it here. I dealt with it first thing this morning with a gentleman here on the steps here as I come in this morning at 7 o'clock. It's very hard to see someone standing there. All right, how can I help you? All of them wants $1. Let's go buy you some breakfast. Nope, don't want no breakfast, just need $1. Okay, how do we help that person? You know, do we just keep handing them money? You know, do we figure out exactly what their need is? You know, I met a lady the other day over behind Arby's. What can we help you with? How can we help? I'm just traveling, I'm headed south. I said, why are you here? She said, well, it's a good place to stop. I can get free lunch at the Salvation Army, go up to the Coffee Connection. We're on a circuit they run already, okay? It ain't just saying we're going to stop in Hoptown. They do. I've seen them get off the train out there at Martin Maria in that railroad yard out there, and it'd be snowing outside when we were pushing snow in their parking lot. And they come up, which way's Hoptown? What you need? Oh, we got off the train. We're going to be here a couple weeks, and we're moving on. So you'll see us, we've got our few that are constant, that are here, that are homeless. And every way in the world, we try to help them. They don't want help. They want the free food, the free handout on money, but they don't want help. I'll use the gentleman on the corner down here. Hey, what do you need today? What can we help you do? Just having a bad day. And that's what he'll tell me. You know, he'll tell me he's on drugs. He goes, I've been struck out in jail 7, 8 times. Been in and out of jail. You know, judges over has got him on a first name basis. And nothing against the judge, but the way our state law reads and the Constitution is, we can only do so much. And some of them do want help, and the Lord knows we want to help them. And dealing with the Salvation Army, we're trying to work with them too. We've got a 4 off of their board that's going to help us. I got Chief here. We're trying to figure out, how did they get to Hopkinsville? Because a lot of them are not from Hopkinsville. Like I said, they get off the train. Somebody brings them here and drops them off. And it's not just because they got out of jail on Friday night at 4 o'clock. Because Adam and them's got a system set up. If they get out of jail and they're on a certain time during the day, they try to make sure they have a ride home or where they're going. So I can't blame it all on the county jail. I wish I could, but I can't, Jerry. But I can't do that. Can't blame it all on Western State because they've got a system set up too, because we've been out and talked to them in the Payroll Center house. They're set up on a system. If anybody gets out, now they might lie to them and say they don't, I've got a ride. And, once they get out that door, there's nothing you can do. Right. But if there's a way to help them and a way to help them move forward, we're looking for that answer because we are a community that cares. You're not going to find a better community that will help someone if they're in need. So we just got to figure out how we can help them and which way we can help them do that. Building a bigger shelter is not going to solve our problem. We build a bigger shelter, it's just going to bring more people. Mm-hmm. We have to help the people we have now. And we need to figure out how we can help them. If it's mental health, drug addiction, alcoholism, whatever it is, or they just don't want to be found. As one lady says, I'm just panhandling all the way to Florida. And that's what she planned to do.
So the Salvation Army, I think we discussed it before. Do they plan on downsizing or closing or?
They are trying to figure out what they want to do. Only thing I asked the Salvation Army to do is let's try to make sure we start feeding people inside instead of just handing out the white tray. If you walk up and down Virginia Street you're picking up white trays from Salvation Army to the Coffee Connection, over to Grace and Mercy, up to the other motels. I understand they need to be fed, but we got two crews that just ride around town and pick up downtown.
Yeah.
And we're paying men and women to do this, which that provides a job. But there again, like I asked Salvation Army and their board, would they please try to let's feed them inside like we always did before pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, you went in, you sat down, you got water, juice, or whatever to drink, your hot meal, or however it was that day. They done one of the churches my cousin them helped do. They met at least once a month, real cook for them, grill for them, whatever. They all come up and eat. That was in the shelters. These men and women that are in the shelters, they need help. They need all the help we can give them.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to help because some of them, that's all they have. As I tell anybody, I'm only one step away from being there. All you got to have one good bad day.
Yeah.
And then you're there. So don't ever think that that's somebody else's problem. That is the city of Hopkinsville problem. That is my problem as mayor. That is our problem.
Thank you. This is for all of you all on the panel. Racial tensions and concerns, do you believe that it exists in this community? Sir?
You go first.
Yeah, you go first.
If it does, I don't see it. I don't hear about it. It's just that simple. I don't see it or hear about it. I hear about some situations that may be, but at the end of the day, to me, I think I talk to lots and lots of people, and they love Hopkinsville, and they love Christian County, and they enjoy being here, and they love the people here in Christian County. Of course, I don't stay on social media. Maybe I'm naive to that, but as far as people coming to my office and saying we got a problem, I don't see it.
So would you say the majority of the people that come to your office, are they more people of color
That's probably
or people that are Caucasian?
I see people not necessarily by their color, and that is honest to God. I think the gentleman today was African American. I would think it's probably close to maybe 40%. It's probably pretty close to what our percent is in Hopkinsville and Christian County.
Okay.
I've had several minority people come to, and of course, we listen to them all.
So what about when it comes to complaining about some of the things that's either being done or being said by some of the people that are employed, I would say, for you? Because if I'm not mistaken, you said that Sheriff DeArmond does not fall under your umbrella.
Mm-mm.
So can you elaborate on that? Because you would think it being county, I know he's an elected official as well,
Right.
but the way that things are ran, he's over the sheriff's department and you're over everything else. Or do you have say-so on with the complaints from
The
the
only
sheriff's
thing that we have say so over the sheriff is his budget. The sheriff is employed by the people of Christian County, the same as I am. The county clerk is employed by the people of Christian County. When I get complaints from other constitutional officers, not necessarily themselves, but their department, it's just simply, I don't have a say-so. Now, I may call my fellow elected official and say, hey, just give you a heads up, or just so they're aware. But how they handle their situation is up to them, because at the end of the day, they report and held accountable by the people just as I am. So I'm going to stay in my lane, and I respect them to stay in their lane too.
Okay.
So.
Mayor?
Well, complaint department, they come to me. My office is the complaint department. Okay. City council can't do anything about disciplinary issues. They can hear complaints about the trash, the tree limbs and everything going on. Miss Natasha gets her phone rung off a lot about that. But, the complaint department about my employees, public works, fire department, police department, that all falls back under mine. Then I call my department heads, then I go see HR. As far as that goes, the complaint driven is about equal. Inner city is very upset. They don't feel like they're getting what they deserve. Other people are upset because they don't get a road paid. Thank goodness if it's got a number on it, it's not my fault on that. It's a state road. But if you turn around and you look at the city roads in Hopkinsville that belong to us, per se, is like, we'll go right over here on Knoll Avenue or Kentucky Avenue, 1st Street, 2nd Street. That is our streets. That is what, and when do we pave them, how we pave them, it's done by a scoring system. Inner city or Great Oaks or however, it's all done by a grading system. It's not done, I'm picking this street today or that street today. Because, I don't feel like it ought to be that way. It ought to be, if you got potholes in your road, we need to fix them if we got the money or we got to patch them. Right. Okay? Because we have a set fund for that every year in the city budget for that. The inner city res budget, $350,000 was sent through committee of the whole on the last Thursday night. Will be on the first Tuesday of the month coming up to be voted on by council. And then we'll have to do that twice. And then CDS will be running that. Miss Laura Faulkner and Miss Wood will be running that. And so will Holly Bogus, that money, they'll be working with the inner city part again. I will tell you this, I don't see in the inner city res money rental property. It is not our job to take care of someone's rental property. If you bought that as an investment property, you need to invest your money in your property. Now, you come to me with a house that's tore up, you've lived there all your life, and you're struggling, and let's say you need a roof or a door or some windows, then that's what that money's for. That money's there to help that person that's been there for 20 years or 30 years, even 60 years. They need a little help. I'm sorry. You let somebody get down and instead of working on a fixed income already, doing all they can do to survive, and the roof gets tore off their house. Hate to say it, we've seen plenty of it. And you couldn't afford the insurance. Why can't we use that money instead of somebody's rental property? Let's help that man or woman get back on their feet. Let's quit worrying about someone's investment properties. Let's worry about the homeowners of Hopkinsville on that. And they say, well, that's rental property and that's low income housing. But if you had a good rental, I got rental property myself, and I'll tell you right now, if I can't lay my head down in it, I don't need to own it. If my wife kicked me out tonight, I better be able to go lay my head down in it. And I use that for analogy all the time on that. And I hope she don't. For 30 years, she's put up with me, so hopefully she won't.
So there's no intentions of interfering with the funding from inner city res is what you're saying, right?
Right. There's
So,
no
grant funding.
We had to turn around and relook at how we were doing the money this year because we took out demolition money out of it. It's usually $500,000, but it had demolition funds in it, employees pay in it. So we took that money out of that inner city funds and we put the employees' money in the employees in the payroll. We put demolition in demolition on that because that way when we come over to I'll just use east side right here. Let's say we got 4 or 5 houses that need to be tore down, that are just dilapidated, no floors, roofs gone, and it's done checked off, it's inhabitable. Then that money, we have money to tear at $8,000 or $6,000. Most houses run anywhere from between $6,000 to $10,000 to tear down. We have that money in a fund for itself. And then we're not over, well, you can't have this because we're going to move it over here. This is for demolition. This is for the inner city. Okay. This is for the neighborhood programs. Where are we going to spend this money on that money?
Okay. But let me go back.
Okay.
So do you think that there's any racial tension that?
I wish there wasn't. I believe there is. It's a very small amount, but I wish there wasn't. I wish everyone seen through a little child's eyes. They don't know color, they don't know race, they don't know nothing, but they love each other. And I wish everyone could be that way.
So as our city mayor, what do you propose to do or to assist the NAACP and some of the other organizations in this community
To work
to
together,
bridge? Yes.
to work together hand in hand and move our city forward. Until we start moving forward and working together instead of bickering and arguing about they got this or this person got that, no, it is a community. And we all live in this community. We all need to be together, working side by side to move our city forward. And that's every neighborhood, every person, because we all got to answer to one person, and I hope I can one day.
So as you know, I've invited you three gentlemen to
Yes.
join the NAACP.
Yes.
And if I've asked you all to fill out your applications
Waiting
and
on it
turn
from
them in,
her.
and to turn them in, because as I see it, as the president, I mean, we're a small body,
Yes, ma'am.
but you have the power of the community. And so this is the reason why I asked for this panel today, because we need to be transparent. And
Yes,
a lot of times, some of the organizations will not, or if I'm not a part of the organization, will not come to you and ask, help us. We need to do this, so we need to do that. I'm not saying show up at our black churches when it's time to be elected. I'm saying show up at our church and visit to get to know your community, because this is your town as well as it is ours. But you ought to be able to address more than one or two churches. There are small black churches here in Hopkinsville. Let people know exactly who you are, and that you are willing to walk that walk with us. Not just talk it, but you're gonna have to walk it with us. So that's something that, as we members of the NAACP, we would like to see you do. Not do an election. We want to see you at some of the small churches. We want to see you all at some of the gatherings. I mean, it's okay, but you have to understand, these people here and the rest of the community, we're paying your salary.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you attend, for example, the Lions or whatever they do downtown, then join us. That's all we're asking. That's the reason why I asked you, do you feel that there's racial tension? Because to us, there is, as a community. And then, Chief, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Do you feel that there's racial tension here in Hopkinsville?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
And what do you propose to do about it?
I am doing exactly what I have been since I took over this position. So like when I called you last week and requested a meeting with you, I wanted to know about what the black community in Hopkinsville, what do you want to see from the police department? What do you want us to do? What can we do to make the relationship better? Because I know there's a bad relationship there. And I'm not saying with everybody, but there is absolutely tension there. I contacted Ms. Farmer and asked to meet with her, just like I met with you, asking her, hey, what's your thoughts on this? I've been to Mount Olive Baptist Church. I went to the Vacation Bible School nights. I can't go every night, obviously, but I'm getting out and meeting with members of the black community. I'm asking them to come and meet with me. I'm asking questions because if I don't know, I cannot fix it. So I am communicating. If I get that application, absolutely, I want to be involved. There's nothing I won't do for anybody in our community. So yes, there is tension there, and I am doing everything that I can do to bridge that gap.
Okay. For you all, because as one, you all being the leaders of the community, this is something that you all could probably work on together. I'm not sure. But can we put together an inclusive diversity board with a range of backgrounds, demographics, skills, competencies, and experience? This will allow equal engagement invested in sharing power and responsibilities for our community's a mission statement. The goal of this board will be to initiate the necessary culture and ethical changes for the welfare of this community. Gender, ethnicity, spirituality, age, political opinions, are some of the examples that I feel that's part of the diversity. So is there any way that we can put a panel together? So instead of our city, as far as with the negative press that we're receiving now with 74.5 million views for one person. But this wasn't something that was positive in this community. We need to let people know that we're not country hillbillies out back, and that you all condone the action and that we're supposed to accept it.
Yeah, so like I asked you last week, so we're currently in the process. So my command staff has been in place for about 3 weeks now. Whenever we get our policies together for police conduct, racial profiling, social media. I asked you last week, I want you to put together whatever panel you see fit. And I want you all to review those policies and give us your recommendations of whether you think this will work. Should something be taken away? Should something be added? So as far as the police department goes, absolutely, because I do want the input from the community when it comes to how the police department is ran.
Okay. Mayor?
Yes, and we do want your input, and I think it would be a good thing for us to put a panel together. I believe we can get a panel together. Me, you, Jerry, Chief, a few council members, and community people want to say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we want to talk about. These are the issues that were brought to me. This is what they brought to me at church this one, or this is what they brought to me at the neighborhood association meeting. This is what we need to talk about. Okay, Chief, this is what they say we need to work on your part. This is what the mayor needs to work on his part. We're not seeing you. We're not hearing what you're wanting. We're not hearing what we want to hear. Okay, is it because we can't give it to you? If we can, I'll tell you why. If we can, it's all open if the money's there, or just the need for us to say, here we are to help do something. If it's there to help feed somebody that day, or come to a meeting or whatever, on that. I'm not going to tell you no, because we need that type of interaction. If we can get a panel together and say, this is what we need, I'll be more than happy to be right there in the middle of it with you.
Sir? I know it's not very many minorities living out in the county. I do live in the county. So what do you propose?
I'm open for anything. If you'll have a panel put together, the only thing I ask is that it be effective. And in order to be effective is communicate.
Yes, it.
And I'm sitting, anytime we'll sit down and talk. I've tried to be very transparent with everyone. My personal cell phone number is on my business card. My personal cell phone number is on our website. A few mornings I've regretted that, but nonetheless, it's out there. I want to hear from them. If that panel allows me that segue to hear the closer heartbeat of our community, so be it. I'll be glad to. I just want it to be effective.
Okay. Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So as we spoke the other day, I told you I was going to ask you to explain the KRS Chapter 15 and how it relates to the police department.
So not too many years ago, a police chief or a sheriff could fire a police officer or a deputy just because, without reason, without cause. So the state created Chapter 15, which covers the officer's Bill of Rights. And what that does is it governs how a police officer's employment or certification, whenever that comes into question, it gives officers due process. It protects them from wrongful termination. So the days of even me as a chief going to somebody and saying, you're fired, those days are over. Law dictates how that can be done and when that can be done. So that is what KRS Chapter 15 does, is it gives officers due process when it comes to their employment and certification.
Okay, so explain how Kentucky being an at-will state, how does KRS Chapter 15 apply when it comes to the police department?
So when police officers first get hired, they sign a contract saying that they understand that Hopkinsville is an at-will employer. So what that means is until you go to the academy and you graduate the academy and you're sworn in, you're not a certified police officer. So the police officer's Bill of Rights would not apply to you. Now, once they graduate the academy and they get off their probationary period, then they do fall under the officer's Bill of Rights. So they're at will until they reach that point to where they're certified and off probation. Then they fall under the Bill of Rights.
So I want to make sure that we understand that why an officer cannot be terminated like a regular employee at a factory or a bank or whatever. Should the police department be held to a higher standard?
Yes.
Okay. And so what are you doing to do that?
Well, we're doing just that. Like I said, who we can fire, who we can terminate, it's governed by law. So
Is it Kentucky? Is it the Kentucky law or?
Kentucky law, yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
as far as like, okay, I understand it's the Kentucky law, but there's a code of conduct or standards. And in that book, remember I sent you some things that I thought was important as it related to the incident that's going on now.
Right.
So based on the information that I sent you, can you elaborate on still how can a person that falls under the state code, it seems like the city is superseding the state instead of the state superseding the city.
Yeah, city policies cannot override state policies, just like state policies can't override federal. But to answer your question, what am I doing? We are changing nearly every policy that the Hopkinsville Police Department has. So once we have those in place, which will be done this week, they will go to, I would like for you and whatever committee to go over those with us for any recommendations for changes. And then at that point, it will go to the city attorney. He looks at it to make sure that we're not violating anybody's rights or laws or anything. And then once that's approved, then we can establish them as our own policies. So that's what I am doing to hold officers to a higher standard is I'm updating much needed updates in the police department policies. Some of these policies have been there for decades.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing.
So also, like I know when I was conversing with you, we talked about policies being adopted from the state. And that if you don't adopt a code from the code of standard, does that mean that the state policy is not in play?
So the state law is always in play. So the one thing that we can do, we have to go by state laws. But what we can do is we can make them more restrictive.
Okay.
Now we can't make them more lax, but we can build off the state law. And then if we want to add even more restrictions to that, we can, which we are. We just can't be more lax.
Okay. So, as you know, we had a city council meeting last week, and the people that I guess was concerned about the situation at hand. I'm just going to say today that the NAACP would not continue to debate the Jeremiah Klein debacle. We met Friday, you and I, the 18th at 8:30. And if you elaborate on the decisions that we discussed, and if you can, I would appreciate it if you can't, because I believe transparency is very important. A lot of people don't know our discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we did, because I want to build a trustworthy relationship with you and the rest of the community.
Yes, ma'am. And I wish I could. Unfortunately, I can't speak privately. I can't speak publicly about administrative actions within the police department. Our private conversation is one thing, but publicly I cannot.
Okay. I just wanted people to know that, something did transpire.
Yes, ma'am. And I've said it before. I said it in a release and I'll say it now. The concerns were heard. It's been addressed and it is still being addressed. And that's about as much as I can say.
Okay. I really appreciate you gentlemen coming today to our meeting. This won't be the last time that I will be calling you all, texting you, may get on your nerves, but if people contact me, I will be contacting you, even if it may be a text message. But I feel that too many of our Black people are moving out of the city of Hopkinsville because they are being racially profiled. There are not job opportunities here for us. There are a lot of things that are going on in this city that does not really make people like my siblings. They won't come to Hopkinsville. They said because it's blatantly racist. Now I'm not saying that you all can control what goes on with other people, but what I am saying is the vibe that you portray is the vibe that other people pick up on. And then say, for instance, and I hate to go there, but when you have an ex-president that goes to one state and makes a statement about what this, that, and the other, whatever he said, sometimes you pump people up to say, okay, well, yeah, I'm bad. I'm getting ready to go out here and run amok. But then on this occasion, they got handled. We don't want that. We don't want another Breonna Taylor here in Hopkinsville. We don't want division. We want this community to remain our community as a whole. We don't need outsiders coming here telling us how to run our community, but please assure that if it's needed, it will happen, okay? We're not trying to be on CNN News. We're not. But at the end of the day, if you don't hear our voices, it's a possibility that it can happen. I'm not saying I'm going to beat the drum because I don't believe in that. I believe in doing what I'm doing right now. And that's coming to you gentlemen who run this city to help us bridge the gap of the racism that's blatant in this community. And, you know, I sit back and I pondered on some of the things that what I wanted to ask and what I wanted to say. And I did want to say this, regardless of the party, we are a community trying to build a relationship based on trust and transparency. Voting is the key for us to do, because if we don't go out and vote, we have no right to complain about anything. So we get what we get. If you have concerns, people, please stay off of social media with the madness. If you want to come and voice your concerns about what's going on in this community, city council, that's what they're getting paid for, and that's what these gentlemen are getting paid for. God has the last say at the end of the day. Regardless of what we think or what we do, y'all have to answer to a higher power, and it's not the NAACP. So I guess at night, when you think about how this city is being ran, I'm asking, if you don't pray, pray about it, because that's the only way that we can bridge anything is with prayer, transparency, and communication. Those are the key factors. If you do not file a formal complaint, complaining on social media gets us nowhere. We must have a paper trail. If we don't file a formal complaint, then you can't complain. This is the thing that I'm saying to our community. This is just the beginning of building our bridge. We will see these gentlemen again. We are not a secret society. So them is always invited to the NAACP, the National Association to the Advancement of Colored People, and to advance the interests of colored people by increasing the opportunities to secure justice in the courts, education for our children, employment according to the ability, and complete equality before the law. join today the NAACP. This is not a movement. This is us. And I don't want it to be us versus them. I want it to be we the people. So if you don't have anything positive to say, and if anybody know me, know I could care less what you say, because if you think you could do it better, by all means, you can vote next year and get your new president. Because I'm not a controversial type of person. I live here in Hopkinsville. I will not be harassed by no police officers because of what I've said, because you're going to hear it if I do. So I appreciate you gentlemen coming today. If you're not a member, like I said, join. Those who are watching us, it's better in numbers. And if we don't get the numbers up, we're going to get what we get. So this concludes the meeting with you gentlemen. Thank you for turning out tonight, and God bless. And until next month, be prepared that if I get anything, you will hear from me.
I expect to hear from you.
You will hear from me. Thank you.